Good evening. I'd like to call the Council as a whole committee to order. With us this evening are Councilor DiMartino, Vice President Clark, Councilor Caddy, Councilor Di Natale, Councilor Bove, Councilor Joseph, Councilor Solomito, Councilor Starr, Councilor Connery, and myself, Councilor Hay. Before we get started with the final review of the fiscal year 2010 budget, I would like to thank the councilors, the department heads, and the mayor for their work and diligence over the past 6 weeks in bringing us to tonight. Everybody worked hard, everybody worked professionally, and I think the result tonight will show that folks listen to each other and work together, and that's important. So we will go to the agenda tonight, which is the final review of the fiscal year 2010 budget. Councilors, we're not going to read all the orders, but if there are motions to be made regarding it, we will hear those. Councilor Di Natale.
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion that we reduce sanitary landfill contract services line item by $80,000.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to reduce the sanitary landfill contracted services line item by $80,000. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? One in opposition.
I'd like to make a second motion, another motion to, well, here's a question, the 3% reduction in salary.
We've got the number is 2,970, Councilor.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that the city councilors' personal services be reduced by $2,970.
Second.
We have a motion and second that the city councilor's personal services line item be reduced by $2,970. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Speaking to the motion, Councilor Joseph.
Who is going to write the ordinance or rewrite the ordinance to match that?
It's already on the agenda for final reading.
Okay, because I'd like to make sure that there's a clause in there of a duration, not just...
Okay, you can amend that.
Okay.
And it's there. And I would like everybody to know that Councilor Tran has joined us in chambers. So a motion is second to reduce the city councilor's line item by $2,970. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 3 in opposition.
I'd like to make a motion that special events in the Recreation Department be reduced by $1,250.
Second.
We have a motion and second that the special events line item in the Recreation Department be reduced by $1,250. Speaking to the motion,
Is there a
Councilor Solomito.
Thank you, Mr. President. Is there a clarification as to where this is going to come on special events, and could that be explained? What is the city going to lose? I mean, I think it's very simple to say, let's cut it, but could it be explained, and maybe Mr. Roy can
The mayor will
explain it better than
The
anybody?
mayor will speak to that, or?
Oh, Andy's here, I didn't realize.
Mr.
he was
Roy?
here. He can-
Yeah, a lot of it goes towards our concerts on up here, and also our seasonal parties like the Easter egg hunt, the Christmas party, Halloween party, things like that.
Mr. Roy, I mean, the least we can do is have a few parties for the children of Fitchburg, and I mean, that money in public safety is going to get eaten up in about 2 hours of overtime in public safety. I think in the I would submit that in the balance of everything, not everything can go into overtime. There has to be something left in the city of Fitchburg besides overtime. But that's my opinion.
Any other comments regarding the motion? Councilor Caddy.
Ask Mr. Roy how he feels about it. Can he live without it?
Mr. Roy?
How do you feel about it? Can you live without it?
We use that amount every year.
So if it's not there, you won't have the money to do this.
Those parties are a lot smaller.
Yes, they will.
Can I have Christmas for the children?
It's $1,200, is that correct? $1,200?
$1,250, Councilor. Madam Mayor?
If I can just speak to that motion, specifically the parties at the senior center, the Christmas party, Halloween party. I've already talked about my commitment to help fundraising for those events. And if you were cutting $11,000, I would say that that would probably be very difficult for us to fundraise. But I think between the mayor's office and the recreation department, we're committed to raising that $1,250 and to make sure that we have the same events that we've had each and every year.
Councilor Conry.
I think that the $1,250 is a small amount, and I believe that there are enough community-minded businesses in the city that will donation to help defray any costs of that. And I believe what the mayor says, fundraising has been pretty good for Civic Days with Councilor Bove's Couchip Poker and the duck race. I think that $1,200 can be easily raised and contributed towards the parties that are going to be held.
We have a motion and a second to reduce the recreation special events line item by $1,250.
Mr. President?
Councilor Caddy.
Mr. Roy wants to say something, I believe.
I mean, obviously, that money doesn't cover all the costs. I mean, obviously, we get a lot of volunteers and donations already. That just helps offset what we don't get.
Motion to reduce the line item by $1,250. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Four in opposition. So Bove, Lee, Joe. Councilor Di Natale.
Motion that we reduce City Hall maintenance under community development by $43,300.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to reduce the Community Development, Building and Economic Development, City Hall maintenance line item by $43,300. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It is unanimous.
I'd like to make a motion that we reduce office equipment / copiers from finance and administration information technology by $5,000.
We have a motion and second to reduce the Finance Administration office equipment copiers by $5,000. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? One in opposition. Oh, thank you, Counselor. Sorry I missed that. Two in opposition.
Mr. President, I'd like to make one more recommendation that
A recommendation or a motion, Counselor?
a motion, that the police mechanic be reduced by $39,354.
$39,400, did you say?
$39,354.
We have a motion and a second that the police mechanic line item be reduced by $39,354. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 in opposition. Keep your hands up, councilors, for one moment so the clerk can get them. Tran, Clark, Caddy, Obey, Joseph. It doesn't carry. Now, councilors, if we can move on where it does say, yep. Oh, Marcus.
Yeah, I forgot one.
Well, we can, okay.
I'd like to make a final motion that, or from my end anyway, final motion that the Water Department line item account for the land purchase conservation restriction be reduced by $150,000.
On your sheets, that is 13409, which will reduce the $1,656,500 to $1,506,500. Mr. Saracen.
Yeah, thank you, Counselor. Just to add clarification, this was mentioned by Deputy Commissioner Murnia. This needed to be eliminated because it's going to be covered in the other transfer that's occurring in this year, in fiscal year '09, actually later on based on the Finance Committee's report. So it's not necessary that the money be appropriated next year.
We have a motion. Councilor Solomito.
Mr. Saracen, is that part of the money that we're getting from that, the land the
Restriction,
reservoir?
yes.
Right, which was about $500,000?
Yes.
Now, is that the only money that's been spent out of the $500,000 to date? The
Zero,
150?
no monies have been spent yet. We expect to receive the monies any day before the end of June. And once we receive the monies, then we would spend the $150,000 for the purchase of the land.
But that's the only money that's gone out of that account to date? Or
Yes.
will go out, or will go out?
Yes, there is no more than that amount. The rest of the money will remain in that account until, it's a fund balance reserved for land purchases. That'll carry over and remain in place until the department and the mayor come forward with another order.
Thank you.
Counselor Di Natale.
Also, minor clarification, we heard that this was going to come in like, the money was going to be in two buckets. Half that we could spend on anything we wanted, or do it with whatever we wanted. The other half that has to be reserved in the water department for land restriction use. That's a stipulation the state wildlife, fish and game has, correct?
Yes,
So that 150 is coming out of that 500,000 for the land restriction. That's not the 150 that the city can use however it chooses.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
We have a motion and a second to reduce 13309, oh, I'm sorry, 13409 by $150,000. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? One in opposition. Councilors, we do have also 13309, which is appropriate the sum of $959,788, same to be certified as water expense and charged against Water Enterprise Fund. That needs to have a motion to not be adopted. That is covered, as you'll see on your shot, replaced by Order 15009.
Motion that 13309 is not adopted.
We have a motion and a second that 13309 not be adopted. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? It is unanimous. Just one second, councilors, I'm getting a number from Mr. Saracen, so we have... Order 12609, councilors. We need to make a change to the $92,432,419 in the general fund. From the motions that carried this evening, we would be reducing that number to $92,299,899. If we could have a motion to...
Motion to accept 12609 as amended.
Second.
Speaking of the motion.
Councilor,
Is this the vote where we are accepting the budget, or not?
this is this vote, Councilor, will be to accept simply the $92,299,899. We will then need one vote that will carry everything else that is...
Just the recommendation.
Just a recommendation, and then it goes to the council at our special meeting following this.
Okay, I think this is the appropriate time to discuss the whole package. I have made a series of recommendations over the last several weeks to reduce the mayor's proposal, and there were some cuts that were made tonight that I was pleased to see. When I remember last year when we voted on this, I recall I was the only one who voted against last year's budget, and it probably came across that I voted against it because not all of my recommendations were adhered to, were agreed to. And I look at the whole package, and even if we were to keep a lot of these public safety jobs, if that's a possibility, I still feel like there's a lot of things in this budget that I do not believe is going to protect the citizens as much as they need to be protected. Even with the cuts and even with the discussions we've had, the fact remains that Our public safety departments are well below levels they should be, especially in the fire and the police. And there's no money in this budget for police vehicle replacements, even though I know we're trying to get grant money for that through the JAG. I've been wrestling with this the last couple of days because I said, even if I agree to make these cuts, do I still agree with the overall package? And it's not so much vote against anybody or how the process was done. It's, I look at the whole package and I'm not happy with it for a lot of reasons. One big one being, a lot of the things are outside our control regarding outside funding, but it's just, I don't believe that it's adequate enough to serve the citizens in a public safety, with regard to public safety. That's just my own personal opinion. It's not because I didn't get all the cuts that I would like to. It's more just, you know, even if those cuts were adopted, I still wouldn't really, I wasn't crazy about this budget the day we were presented with it because of how much we've lost. So I'm confident and optimistic that probably down the road, things will get better and that there will be some ranks built up a little bit. But even if those ranks are built up, it's at best where we are this year, and even that's not enough. So this also includes a property tax increase, which I understand to a lot of people is unavoidable, but I've been saying for a long time that we could have probably reduced that a little bit to make up for all the other increases. But just in closing, I looked at the whole package, and I'm not happy with it for many reasons. And I will not be voting, I will not be putting my stamp of support on this budget this year for those reasons. Thank you.
Counselor Joseph.
Well, I guess I want to say, first off, when I came into the budget process, as devastating as it appeared to be, I was very disheartened with where we were heading, and like you said, it's not a budget that you want to pass for the city. And I said right up front that I was in it for the long haul to listen to the proposals that were being brought before us. I want to thank Councilors Di Natale and Tran for bringing the proposals forward that they did. There was a lot of logic behind them and a lot of history of non-spending that made our decision for that $135,000 tonight. One of the things that, again, along with public safety, that I was passionate about in this budget session was making sure that the senior center stayed open for the same amount of hours for that for the people that it serviced, and that's something that came out of those recommended cuts. So it's always good to listen and see what's going on and keep an open mind, and I think that this is one of those years that we really needed to work together, come up with a final product. Though it's not a product that we all want to put our rubber stamp on, it is a product that I'll vote for, and I think that it was, for what we have, it's the best that could be done.
Counselor Conry.
Yes, Councilor Hay, I'd just like to make a comment. This budget has been long and at times contentious during our discussions. However, I think we have all been able to express our opinions, and each one of us has been able to accept how the other person feels. The council hasn't received everything they wanted, and the mayor hasn't received everything she wanted. But in the end, the legislative and the administrative branch of this government reached a consensus, which I think will be beneficial to the city given the conditions that we're in. I feel somewhat relieved about the public safety issues, both police and fire. We must face it, our city cannot thrive unless we have safe streets and safe neighborhoods. I think we must be very vigilant in 2010 with the public safety issues that are going to face this city. And it's incumbent upon the administration and this council that any extra dollars that we receive by this city must be allocated to the police and fire department. Thank you.
Counselor Solomito.
Thank you, Mr. President. I likewise am not thrilled about this budget, but for entirely different reasons. And I think it, quite honestly, it comes down to economics. In the state that the city of Fitchburg, especially Fitchburg, our state, in the country, every community is feeling a pinch financially. Every single city and town has to deal with it. Boston has dealt with it. Worcester has dealt with it. And I'd like to think that those cities and towns have dealt with it professionally and properly. And every one of them have said we have to make cuts in personnel. It's unavoidable. It's going to happen. There are layoffs in the largest corporations in the country, in the largest businesses and the smallest business. Every business is suffering. Every business is laying people off. The city of Fitchburg lays off 0. And if you look at it, we took money from here, $1,000, shifted it over. We took $2,000 here, moved it to another budget. We've transferred money, we've scraped, and we've somehow come to an ability, although a hidden one, that we can keep everybody on the entire city of Fitchburg. For the residents to look as to what happened in this budget, they're going to look and say, less money comes in, less revenue comes in, and we have not cut our expenses at all. We have no fewer employees than we did a year ago. That doesn't make sense because it can't work. It's a collision, it's a train collision that's been delayed, but it's going to happen. Financially, there was going to be a crisis that we dodged it, but I think we did it temporarily. Again, we're keeping people on in jobs through grants, and we learned that when you keep a person on a grant and that grant runs out, you then say, gee, I didn't think I'd ever lose my job, or I didn't think we'd lay people off. If you hire a person on a state or federal grant and the grant ends, guess what's going to happen? You're going to lose the person. We've increased the sales tax in the Commonwealth. We've increased liquor sales in the Commonwealth. We are trying to keep everybody on board, and I would love to be able to keep everybody on board. But for a person or resident to look and say, Fitchburg is the only business or community that can keep everybody and still keep afloat. I mean, if General Motors can do it, if Ford can do it, if banks can do it, if every business that I know is laying people off within the state, what's the miracle of Fitchburg that they can keep every single person on? I think it's just a collision that's been delayed, but inevitably, we're going to feel the brunt of it, and I think it, and I don't want to use the word a mask, but I just don't think that what we've done is an intelligent way. We have less money to pay all our bills, and I don't know anybody who can do that. I think we're looking again at working on a credit card mentality. I hope we're going to get money in. I hope we're going to get grants to keep everybody on board. And again, I don't want anybody to lose their job, but I think it's going to happen. We're going to find it down the road. We're going to be in this position next April and next May, or even sooner. I can live with the budget, but for those reasons, I'm unhappy with it. Thank you.
Councilor Di Natale.
To Councilor Salmito's point, there is one community next door that isn't laying off anybody. And the reason for that is because they have planned for the worst. This city has not planned for the worst. We are a $93 million entity with a $1 million cash reserve. That's atrocious. Our neighboring community has proven what happens when you do plan for the worst. because they're not having layoffs because they have a big bucket of money sitting in a bank account. And that's what a reserve account is for, to plan for recessionary periods. My vote against this budget is, and while I understand what you said about if you don't have the money, you don't spend it, and you don't hire more people. Regardless of that fact, I think we can all agree that the levels we're at, for whatever reason, is not adequate. And I know we have to compromise, I know we have to go with what we're given, but I look at this collectively, and I'm not happy with it because I've heard from all the experts, and I've seen how much we've declined in ranks. To me, it's going to be very, very, very tough. We're trying to fix that now. We've built it up to $1 million. Hopefully, we'll build up to $1.5 million when we get the state money. But as you said, you know, we live in a state where there's 80,000 workers, and our governor is saying, I can't do away with any of those. 80,000 employees we have. State of Massachusetts has the highest they're the only entity that's growing. So, taking from what you said, there are some entities that are not laying off people. And it's because they planned for it. And now we're going to try and do what we should have done 15, 20 years ago. But in the overall picture, this has been a long haul, and the thing I liked about this budget was that the number was so low, it presented the absolute worst-case scenario. We ended up doing all this if we are able to get through next year with beefing up the ranks, however we do it. We did it without the need for a trash fee, and we did it without the need for any of the other proposals we were thrown at us. I don't know what the future holds, but as it stands right now, I'm not happy with it. Regardless of if we've come to a compromise or not, I'm still not satisfied with it. And if I'm not satisfied with something, I'm not going to vote for it. That's just my own personal opinion. Thank you.
Councilor Joseph.
I guess I want to clarify, just as a point, how many people are losing jobs because of this budget?
Well, when we started off this budget process a couple of months ago, it was 60. Right now, the number of people losing their jobs is 9.5, and we predict that potentially within the next month or so, that number will be reduced in half. So very much like our sister city, we are leaving about 10 positions open, but we will probably still at the end of the day be laying off a handful of people.
That's after the supplemental budget, right?
After the supplemental budget, we're also still in talks about concessions. We are still looking for grants and so on.
So there's still 10 positions that are being reduced. The school system?
Post-supplemental budget as proposed.
Okay, thank you.
Council, done?
That's it.
Councilor Bove.
Yes, my question is to the mayor. 9.5 people are going to be losing their jobs. Does this also include the teachers?
This does not.
This does not include the teachers. Do you have any idea how many teachers are being laid off?
That will actually depend on the supplemental budget. In the last few days, the state did reduce funds to the schools further. That's why I have a supplemental piece in this budget to bring them back up to what the schools were at even just 4 or 5 days ago. So if this doesn't happen, then we actually have to figure out if we're in danger of losing net school spending, which might actually come back on the general fund side. So this is something that's a moving target. But as of right now, there are about 40 or so positions that are being lost in the school district.
Did the teachers' union vote yea or nay on the 3% decrease?
They were actually voting on 3 furlough days, and they did,
days,
they did not vote in favor of it.
So basically, they've signed their own fate.
That's one way to put it. I see it as a continuous process. They wouldn't be the first union to go through many iterations before achieving an end that is hopefully one that's favorable.
Thank you.
Counselor Connery.
I'd like to just piggyback on a couple of remarks that Councilor Salamito and Councilor Di Natale talked about, and that basically is planning. There's been discussions in this council about planning. I think that this city really needs to consider beefing up a 5-year plan, which is renewed every year. We have a planning department in this city of which several $1,000s or several $1 million has gone through over the past years. I could be taken to the woodshed by a few people on my comment, but how much planning is our planning department doing? My feeling is that the planning department is up there to see how many grants they can get and how many grants they can administer to perpetuate their own jobs. We need to have some planning in this city. We need a 5-year plan, as I said, and we need to re-up that plan every single year. And I don't see where we're getting any assistance in that area for planning. Thank you.
Counselor Clark.
Thank you, Mr. President. We do have less cops right now and less firefighters than we have over the years. And I don't want to see that number go down any more than it is right now. We're living in a day of unfunded mandates. We have no trash fee. We've cut our city lighting. I noticed recently that our friends to the south have also cut their city lighting. So it's something that's going around the state. We've done something finally with health insurance reform. We've made a big inroad in that, and we shouldn't lose sight of that. We've increased our stabilization fund, and we should not look upon that lightly, as well as our bond rating going up. So we have done some positive things in this budget hearing session and over the last year or two. Do I wish that we could have more cops, firefighters, DPW workers, and the best equipment? Yes, and that's something that we're going to continue to work hard for. I think we're going to see some capital investments coming up in the next couple of years. But considering where we were a couple of months ago at this time, and the progress that we've made with the cuts coming from this council, led by my friend Councilor Di Natale and the rest of the council, with the $132,000 that we've cut and the supplemental budgets that we're going to get, I think the picture is a bit clearer than it was a couple of months ago. And due to the fact that it is a bit clearer, I will be voting yes on this budget. Thank you.
Counselor Salamito.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are a few questions if I could direct to the mayor. Thank you. Mayor, was there any resolution or change as far as central dispatching between the police, the fire, and any other agency within the city of Fitchburg?
Not as of yet. We have, in the past few months, joined a coalition of surrounding cities and towns to look at regional dispatching. And we think that that is where the real cost savings and the real benefit in terms of actually getting money from the state to do so. That study should be done shortly. By the end of the year. So we wanted to hold off on anything, any changes this fiscal year, because we'll know within this next fiscal year if regional dispatching is the way to go. If that is the way to go, then I think we would want to plan accordingly, whether it's to prepare to bring regional dispatching to Fitchburg and make those investments accordingly. So we're a little hesitant to make too many changes and put too much money in if that somehow either waste money or prevents us from joining a regional dispatch.
My next question, Madam Mayor. You said that there are 9 positions being, not including school department, being laid off, 9 people?
9.5 posts, if the supplemental budget that I proposed is passed.
Could you tell us where they come from, one by one?
Sure.
Thank you.
5 police officers
They're being laid off.
laid off.
Are they coming back?
They will come back if there are grants and/or concessions and/or further dollars that are found somewhere, whether it's through concessions or through expenses that we know will go down, and so on.
Where are the others?
5 police officers, 1 firefighter. Right now, we have 1.5 clerks from the Community Development Office, 1 clerk from the Treasurer's Office, and we are still in discussions. It will likely be finalized, well, not finalized, it'll be more clear tomorrow about the IT manager. There's still ongoing impact bargaining that will continue tomorrow.
On the layoffs that you said of the police and the fire department, they don't entail retirements. You're not including retirements in that number, are you?
No, these are just the individuals who would still be working for the city if it weren't for the budget shortfall. So this does not include retirements. The retirements, transfers, and so on are in the number that I talked about in terms of the open positions. And there are currently 3 open positions for the police, 6 open positions for the fire department.
What is happening with the Quinn bill as far as the city's obligation now that the state has cut back on some of their payments?
That is still under question. It's a question that just about every city and town across Massachusetts is trying to figure out, because these are usually issues that have been individually negotiated in each town. But there's also been some, and there's actually current discussion on the state level as to the future of the Quinn bill that will then affect what happens on the state level. So that is a question mark that is still out there, something that will probably be in discussion for a number of years.
Well, then why I asked, Madam Mayor, is if there's no resolution right now, and nobody knows what the answer is right now, then I would kind of take it that there is some financial or additional financial exposure to the city of Fitchburg that we don't know, an exact figure, correct?
That is incorrect. We budget for our exposure by budgeting the amount that is dictated in the Quinn bill, not in the state funding. So within the police budget is the amount for the educational incentive. So that is kept in a separate expense line item. The exposure simply lies in the revenue page and the amount of reimbursement that we get. But we always budget for the amount, and then you get reimbursed for that. That's how the Quinn bill works.
And so we're preparing to pay far more than the share that we normally did, correct? Because there's a possibility we may not get a reimbursement.
Right now, we're presuming to get, haven't done the math, but essentially 20% reimbursement. A full reimbursement would mean a $58 million funding from the state for the total Quinn bill. The state has not funded $58 million for quite some time. They actually dropped that to 50. They're looking at dropping that to 25. Now they dropped that to 10. It could increase. There's still room for debate at the state level. It could decrease. The law itself could change. We're not very sure yet. So a lot of, I would say just about every city and town that has adopted the Quinn bill is in a wait-and-see pattern. I'm not sure I've actually seen any city or town act in a way that is contrary to the bill yet.
So my question is, if we have budgeted the full amount, hoping for reimbursement, no, we're not going to, realizing we're not going to get everything we got before, well, isn't that lack of reimbursement going to hurt us? It would have to, wouldn't it?
It certainly does hurt us, but that has already been factored into this budget before you. So if there are any significant changes with the Quinn bill, it will probably only be in the favor of the city financially. So if you're worried about our exposure, that's already been accounted for in this budget, and you really can't go much more in the negative direction. So any changes that you see will either keep things as they are or potentially improve the situation.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Councilor DiMartino.
Well, I'm glad it's over. I don't know about anybody else, but I've never said so many rosaries as I have this past few weeks. The people out there must know that everyone on this council has done their job. And there's one area that I got some phone calls on today, so I'm going to address it. There's been a lot of fear out there. A lot of fear with the workers, a lot of fear with the fire, police, and everyone who works for the city. There's been many threats at us: if we don't do this, if we don't do that, you don't get this. And now at the end of the day, thank God, we're going to be able to save most people. But we're looking a little ridiculous, because we were told we were 6 million short, 4 million short, and we were going to lay off 13 cops, 10, the numbers were, every day they were different. And somebody called me up today and said that if there were poker players, they'd put the money on us, because we're certainly good with the shell game. I want to address that, because that's not what we did. We done what we were given with the numbers we were given, and we prayed that the state would come in with better numbers and that we'd find the money somewhere, and that's exactly what happened. I'm sorry that so many people feel the morale is so low at the police, the fire, and all through the city. And I think it's sad that it had to happen this way. I think if we had had more reality numbers, and we had the negative numbers and the possibilities and everything, and communications is definitely lacking, because I really believed all the numbers and I prayed harder. I even done the 5 decades one day. Nearly killed me, but I done them. And I'm very happy with what's here tonight. I feel some of the people who've lost their job was political, because there's other issues going on that we don't know about. And I feel very sad that that might be happening, because if a person is not doing their job, then let them go on the merits they're not doing their job. But don't let them go because somebody doesn't like them. We pitted people off at each other, and that was done in this building. And it's very sad that it happened. I must tell my colleague, Marcus, this is one of the long-standing budgets, one of the best discussions we've had in the 18 years. I have sat in this chamber when a budget hearing would last 4 minutes, 5 minutes, a rubber stamp. We asked many times for the stabilization fund to be put in. Our previous mayor left us with 10,000. I think this mayor is leaving us with $1.2 million. That's a hell of a thing in one term. And also our bond rating has gone up. So there are positive things. I think when you pit one group against the other, it doesn't come out very nice. It comes out with anger, and people are very upset. So I hope when this is over that we can thank every worker in the city for what they do and tell them we appreciate them. And we also hope that we can appreciate ourselves, because I think we've done a damn good job with this budget. I can say that because I won't be here next year, so I don't have to worry about what happens, but I will worry because I'll be listening to the meetings. But I am so very glad with how this is coming out tonight, and I will be very honored to vote for this budget. Thank you very much.
Councilor Bove.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'd like to piggyback on Councilor Connery's remarks about the planning department. Actually, I'd like to correct a couple things. First of all, I believe the planning department is doing their job, but it still behooves us why they need a $250,000 to administer a $1.3 million grant. Don't know why. And as far as the planning department, they have in the works a bike trail at Sheldon Street for a total of over $85,000. We don't need that either. The planning department is also somewhere in the works planning on redoing the Nashua River so that we can have a kayak trail, a place for kayakers to use. I don't know how many kayakers there are in town, but I don't think it's worth the amount of money that they plan on spending. I will like to say, I'd like to go on record right now, that the planning department is certainly not doing their job. They're spending money just so that they can justify having a job. I do believe that some of the monies that they do spend on frivolous accounts could be used better in the city. Thank you.
Councilor Caddy.
I think that if any one of us was responsible to create a budget, I don't think that the remaining 10 of us would agree with the budget. I think the mayor did a good job with this. I personally have problems with the budget. I'm sure some of you others do. I don't like the way the school department spends money. But we have to vote on their budget, and once we do that, they can spend it the way they want. I totally disagree with the removal of the IT department. I think the cost of removing IT could cost us more than the position itself in the end. I think IT is very important, to the point that we were almost told to create an IT department. A year later, we're taking half of it out. I think that's wrong. Up until last night, when I got an email from the mayor, I thought I was going to walk in here and see 14 policemen and 5 firemen laid off tonight. I wasn't going to vote for the budget if that happened. After receiving her email, after talking to her today, it appears that we're down to 5 retirements, five layoffs in the police department. My question, Ms. Mayor, is you mentioned that if there were concessions in the police department, that you would be able to save some jobs. Out of those 5, how many positions do you think you could save with the, I don't want to ask any questions that I'm not allowed to ask publicly, but with what you're asking, how many positions do you think you can save?
It's the 3% concession that I'm asking of all unions would save approximately 2 positions within the police department.
And you talked about grants, so the remaining 3 policemen, possibility of grants, retirements. Was the grants in the form of a school resource officer? Was that my memory on that one? Or 2?
Both. We're applying for 21 officers through the economic stimulus bill, and we're applying for 3 officers through a school resource grant. We're obviously not going to get all 24 positions, but certainly with looking at 5 layoffs, at least a small portion of those is likely to be funded by grants.
So is it a possibility that we could have no layoffs if the sun lines up with the moon? And
There's a possibility that we might be considering hiring new police officers in the next year.
And the fire department,
Same thing.
in this budget, is it going to be doable to save the Clegon Fire Station?
This budget, plus the supplemental budget, plus a 3% concession that the fire department is currently considering, we will likely know the results of that before July 1st. Will very likely keep Cleghorn Station open.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second to adopt 12609 to $92,299,899. Councilor Joseph.
Does the water enterprise fund also have to go down because of the $150,000 we took out of that, or was that separate?
It is covered in the other order, but if you'd like to make it complete, we could, why don't we, I'll give you that figure.
Let's do one, we'll
Okay,
do one at a time.
I'll give it the
We'll do
other one.
second
Well, that's the part of that one order, that one,
Right, but we're just amending the general fund one first.
oh, okay.
Okay, so we're amending the general fund to $92,299,899. Counselor Di Natale?
President, is the vote just to amend it? It's not to,
That's correct.
okay.
So we're voting to amend the general fund line of 12609 to $92,299,899. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? It is unanimous. Now if we could have a, oh, 1 second. 1 second, please, councilors. And 12609, the Water Enterprise Fund is currently at $5,438,998. If we could have a motion to amend that to $5,288,998.
Motion to amend water enterprise.
We have a motion, a second, to amend the Water Enterprise Fund in 12609 to $5,288,998. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? It is unanimous.
Motion to approve 12609 as amended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve 12609 as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 2 in opposition. Councilors, if we could have one motion on 12709 up to including 17509?
A motion that we accept 12709 through and including 17509.
Second.
We have a motion and second,
Excluding 13309.
excluding 133, that's already been voted out. I'm sorry, 134. Yeah. So we have a motion and a second for 12709 up to including 17509, excluding 133 and 13409. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? It is unanimous.
The motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn the council as a whole committee. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, councilors.